It's election day in El Salvador, and here in the capital, San Salvador, people have been out since early this morning casting their ballots in an election which is already a foregone conclusion. Latest polls suggest that 82% of the voters in this country prefer the re-election of President Nayib Bukele, which will be a first for this country, given that the constitution prohibits consecutive presidential terms. However, a constitutional court ruling in 2022 permitted one more consecutive term for President Nayib Bukele, and he's expected to win today by a landslide. So why is it that Bukele has such high approval ratings amongst voters in this country? It's certainly nothing to do with the fact that Bitcoin is now legal tender here in this Central American country. It has a lot more to do with security and the ongoing state of exception crackdown on the Mara gangs which terrorized this country for so long. El Salvador is a much changed country in recent years, but don't take my word for it. We're going to talk to El Salvadoran voters here about just how much this country has changed. So we're here with voters here now. This is Eunice, she's here. Eunice, muy buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Muy buenos días, súper bien.
Entonces estamos hablando de la situación de seguridad. ¿Qué tanto ha cambiado en este país?
Increíblemente súper seguro. La verdad que se ha visto un gran cambio. Ahora si usted sale en las noches, pues se ve tanta gente en la calle. Increíble, andan con los niños, con sus mascotas. Es un cambio radical que se ha visto.
¿Cómo estuvo antes?
Antes eran las 5 de la tarde, ya usted ya le daba miedo salir, ya se miraban un murmullo de gente, le daba miedo hasta pasar por las colonias. Era horrible, si usted no sabía si iba a llegar a la casa, se subía usted a las coster y daba ese pánico, ver tantas personas super malas, pues usted pensaba y repensaba en salir. También ver las noticias y ver tantos muertos, pues era impactante, ya ni queríamos salir.
Una cosa que dicen internacionalmente es que como han sido como una limpia, ¿no? de esa gente, muchas veces que la gente dice que han agarrado gente equivocada. Según tú, en tu burbuja donde vives, ¿tú consideras que hayan llevado a alguien que no es un indicado, que no tenían que haber agarrado?
Fíjese que en realidad si lo andan buscando es por algo, ¿verdad? Yo sinceramente he dicho, se lo han llevado es por algo, sino que pues la ley no se equivoca. Si usted ha hecho algo, pues ¿cómo se va a escapar de eso? No se puede.
Entonces, ya 5 años más de Bukele es lo más seguro. ¿Qué esperas de los próximos 5 años?
Créame que para mí quiero que el país sea súper seguro, más por mi niño que va creciendo. Quiero un país súper seguro, que él disfrute los parques, que él disfrute un lugar súper seguro para él, y es lo que ando buscando, pues, y pues a disfrutar estos con el nuevo presidente, pues queremos siempre que siga él.
Gracias, Eunice, muy bien. So there you have it there from the voters themselves. This is why Bukele is so popular here. The situation before in El Salvador was entirely different. These awful Central American Mara gangs, you'll have heard of the Salvatrucha 13 and the Calle 18, the Barrio 18 here, have terrorized El Salvador for a very long time, but a lot of them are now behind bars and do not appear to be coming out for a very, very long time. I've personally been coming to El Salvador since 2014, and I can tell you that the country is entirely changed. As Eunice there was saying, before, after dark, it was impossible to be on the streets. Murders were happening at all times of day, and people were just terrified, not wanting at all to even recognize that a murder was happening on the streets in front of their eyes. That's how serious the situation was. And I can tell you that El Salvador today is simply a different country to the El Salvador which I visited first a decade ago. But there are other things on the line in this election. Poverty rates remain high, unemployment is also an issue, and this country also has seen its agricultural sector over the past decades completely demolished, as this country imports more than 80% of what it consumes. That's an issue that Bukele has pledged to tackle, but he will need a majority in Congress to do so. And Congress was recently here reduced significantly from 84 congressional seats to, during this election, 60. That is a huge reduction, and Bukele will need his party, Nuevas Ideas, to hold a majority there in order to consolidate the power that he needs in order to make the institutional changes to El Salvador, which he says are going to give this country a bright future. So it's a very interesting election here in El Salvador, and while voters appear in their vast majority to support Bukele, El Salvador's future is still uncertain as to exactly what the political makeup for the next 5 years is going to be. Polls today across the country close at 5 p.m. local time, and results are expected tonight. So thank you for tuning in. We'll be covering this all throughout the day and into the week. I've been Alasdair Baverstock reporting here for CGTN from San Salvador.